February 17, 1943, Sidi Bouzid, Tunisia. The desert sun beat down on the Axis compound, illuminating a sight that should have been a victory parade, but felt like a quiet, cold dissection. A tank, freshly captured from the Americans during the frantic fighting of the Kasserine Pass, an intact M4 Sherman, serial number USA 3067641, nicknamed War Daddy 2, was being secured for transport. For months, the High Command in Berlin had been fed propaganda dismissing the new American tank. Crude, slow, and overly tall, a mere Tommy cooker. Even the victorious German soldiers and their tank commanders, veterans of the terrifyingly complex Tiger and Panther, believed the Sherman was simple cannon fodder. The highest order came directly from the OKH. Ship this prize to the Kummersdorf Proving Grounds near Berlin. The Reich's top engineers and armored vehicle designers, the same men who conceived Blitzkrieg's masterpieces, would dissect it. They intended to expose the inferior American technology and use the findings to prove their own superior vision of armored warfare. But what the Kummersdorf engineers discovered in the months that followed did not lead to celebration. It led to a deep, agonizing crisis of confidence. They were expecting a demonstration of American naivete. They found, instead, a terrifying, brutal manifestation of American industrial maturity, a kind of ruthless engineering simplicity that would systematically defeat the Wehrmacht. This is the untold story of what happened when German engineers, experts in building magnificent complex tanks, were forced to confront the unglamorous, terrifying brilliance of a tank that simply refused to break down. This is the moment they realized that a war of quality against quantity, when quantity possessed reliability, was a war they were doomed to lose. The Sherman simplicity exposed the German army's fatal flaw. To understand the shock at Kummersdorf, one must first understand the fundamental difference in German and American tank philosophy. The German approach, exemplified by the Panther and the Tiger, was an obsession with maximum technical superiority. Every component was designed for peak performance: thick, sloped armor, powerful complex engines, and devastating long-barreled main guns. The Panther, weighing 45 tons, was a masterpiece of lethal complexity. But this complexity came at an unforgivable cost: mechanical disaster. The Achilles heel of German engineering. The Tiger, weighing 57 tons, its complex overlapping road wheels and intricate torsion bar suspension required specialized maintenance and broke down frequently. Its fuel consumption was astronomical. The Panther, while brilliant, its final drive, the assembly that transferred power to the tracks, was famously weak. Panthers routinely broke down simply driving to the battle. Reports show that many Panther units achieved an operational readiness rate of only 20 to 40% at any given time. Tanks were abandoned not because of Allied shells, but because they simply seized up on a muddy road. Meanwhile, the American Army demanded a tank that could be mass-produced by car manufacturers and maintained by mechanics with basic training. The result was the M4 Sherman, a tank often outgunned and out-armored by its rivals. In the crucial period of 1943 and 1944, the Germans held the technical advantage, but the crisis was looming. While a German commander could boast of a powerful Tiger, that Tiger was more likely to be found on a recovery vehicle, or worse, abandoned by the side of the road, than in combat. The German High Command relied on a small number of invincible machines. The American High Command relied on a vast, endless stream of machines that were always ready to fight. The stage was set for the ultimate examination, when the experts of complexity finally laid their hands on the engineering of simplicity. The captured Sherman arrived in Kummersdorf, the heart of German tank development, in the spring of 1943. German engineers immediately set about stripping the tank, expecting to confirm their preconceptions of cheap, inferior parts. What they found shattered their confidence, component by component. The transmission, the failure of German steel. The German final drive was a disaster. Designed to handle massive torque, the gears were prone to stripping and seizing after only a few hundred kilometers. The Germans had to use high-grade alloys and specialized machining for every single component. The Kummersdorf report on the Sherman's transmission was damning. They discovered the American design used herringbone gears. These were standardized, reliable design perfected in American civilian heavy truck industry. While the gear teeth were smaller than the German equivalents, the sheer simplicity and quality of the assembly meant the Sherman's transmission could last thousands of kilometers without failure. It was easy to remove, easy to replace, and used common, non-specialized steel. German engineers realized their own designs were using up specialized labor and rare materials on parts that would inevitably fail, while the Americans were using civilian industry standards to create a component that was almost unbreakable. The engine, the standardized workhorse. The Germans were running their tanks on complex Maybach gasoline engines, powerful but requiring constant fine-tuning. Some Sherman variants used the massive Ford GAA V8 aluminum engine designed originally for aircraft but detuned for tank use. Other variants used the simple Continental radial engine. The shock was the modularity. American tank crews could swap out an entire Sherman engine in less than a day, sometimes in a few hours, using basic tools. A German crew required specialized heavy equipment, factory-trained mechanics, and often days to service a Panther engine that had to be extracted through the turret ring, an act of logistical desperation. The simplicity of repair, the interchangeable part. The ultimate realization came during field stripping exercises. The Kummersdorf engineers discovered that the American obsession with standardization was lethal. The Sherman's vertical volute spring suspension bogies were bolted on in modular units. A shattered bogie wheel could be replaced in the field by an ordinary crew in minutes. The vast majority of components, from drive sprockets to machine gun mounts, were interchangeable across the 49,000-plus Shermans produced. Every single one of them was supported by a supply chain that could deliver any standardized part to any front in the world within days. The Panther was the elite sports car. The Sherman was the rugged, endless mass of Ford F-150s. The engineers' report returned to Berlin with a chilling conclusion. While the Panther could destroy a Sherman in one-on-one duel, the American ability to return destroyed or broken Shermans to combat within hours meant their tank losses were meaningless. Reliability, backed by unmatched industrial capacity, was the true armor of the M4 Sherman. The report from Kummersdorf did not lead to a redesign of the Panther. It led to despair in the top ranks. Albert Speer, the Minister of Armaments, later admitted that the mechanical defects of the Tiger and Panther were so severe that the Americans gained a crucial advantage simply by having tanks that worked. The captured Sherman proved that the German genius for complex weaponry was fundamentally flawed for the realities of total war. They built machines that were too good to risk and too difficult to fix. The Americans built machines that were easy to fix and numerous enough to risk everywhere. The military impact on the front. In the battlefields of 1944, German units frequently reported operational readiness as low as 15%, meaning 85% of their magnificent Panthers and Tigers were stuck behind the lines, waiting for complex repairs, specialized tools, and rare spare parts. The avalanche. When Patton broke through, he did so with the M4 Sherman. Even though individual Shermans were lost to Panthers, the American forces could mass 4 or 5 Shermans against one Panther, or simply bypass the heavy, immobile German tanks. The sheer weight of numbers, backed by the certainty that every broken Sherman would be fixed and returned to the fight by a highly efficient tank recovery unit, crushed the German resistance. The psychological toll.